Welcome to another transfer tips video ahead of Double Gameweek 37. This is going to be slightly different as we're going to have an additional hold and one less sell. Let me know if you would change anything in this list and which players are on your watch list. Let's get this video to 150 likes and we're just over 100 subscribers away from 11,000, so it'd be very much appreciated if you smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. It really helps out the channel, and let's get straight into this. First up, we have Wilfried Zaha. I talked about him in my best free hit team video, as well as the reaction stream, and I think he's one of the very best options in Double Gameweek 37. Now, I actually ranked the 5 teams that are doubling in 37, and I put Crystal Palace around 3rd, with 2 away games, which aren't too bad to be fair, against Everton and Aston Villa. And I think Everton and Aston Villa have better fixtures. Check out that video so you can see the rankings, and also the best players, some alternative picks if you're looking for some differentials. But for me, Zaha is even a great captaincy option. You look at his stats across the season, they're pretty good. He's on penalties, and that has boosted him slightly recently with 13 goals and only just 1 assist. Typically does get a few more of these assists, especially with his great dribbling, but ultimately it's the goals that he's getting, and that's very important for his FPL points. He's got an XG of just under 11, his expected assist is 5.68, and he's had 12 big chances and 6 big chances created, and the shot volume is pretty good too, with 64 overall and 28 of them on target. Even the shots in the box is pretty decent. So for me, Wilfried Zaha is a great purchase. You might look at the 38 game against Man United. To be honest, we all know this by now. It's a pretty good fixture to target, and I think Zaha could do very well, not just in 37, but also in 38. So he's a great long-term purchase. I say long-term, we've got 2 game weeks left, but he's also very good for Game Week 37 specifically, for those of you who are using the free hit like myself. So for me, Wilfried Zaha is a buy. Next up, we have Danny Ings, and we've got a lot of Aston Villa players to talk about in this video naturally, as I think they have the best set of doubles of any team this week. And remember, this is obviously the last double game week of the season. Now, Danny Ings has 7 goals and 6 assists, which is pretty decent. The XG also matches that. The expected assist, though, there's a huge golfing class there between expected assists and actual assists, so a huge overperformance. 11 big chances, 2 big chances created. Pretty much all of Danny Ings' shots come inside the box, as you can see there. Now, I think he's a better finisher than Ollie Watkins, but you could argue Ollie Watkins this season has been the better striker overall with his hold-up play and the other things that he offers. Now, I would actually recommend both of them into your team. You could even go for both of them and Richarlison as your front three. I think that's arguably the best front three from the double game week is available to you, but there's always going to be question marks about Danny Ings, especially in terms of his fitness and also the injury record, although it's not been too bad this season. Now, Ollie Watkins is the one with a knock. Let's see how that develops. But one thing to take into account is if you are buying him into your normal team, you're going to buy into that Manchester City fixture as well. So if you do have a double or triple up in Aston Villa and you have no free hit left, then Game Week 38 could be a problem, and that's why maybe you have to take a hit or two potentially to kind of improve your starting 11. So that's something to worry about. That's why I think Danny Ings and the other Aston Villa players are perfect for a free hit, because then in Game Week 38 you don't need to worry about them. In my normal team I have 0 Aston Villa players, but now I've got a triple up because of the free hit. So for me, Danny Ings is a buy, but Game Week 38 is going to be very tough for the Villains. It's very rare for a goalkeeper to make these lists, especially in the buy section, but also even rarer for an Everton player to be recommended in the buy section. Now, Jordan Pickford has been very good in the last few games. Against Chelsea, he was man of the match. He also produced another fine display against Leicester, and Jordan Pickford has just been very good. He's arguably the best goalkeeper right now. He does face Arsenal in Game Week 38, which isn't the easiest game, especially with everything that's riding for both teams potentially heading into the final game of the season, but I still think Pickford has picked up, and Everton are showing some pretty good performances. If you look across the season, the stats are dreadful. 78 big chances conceded. The expected clean sheets is actually an underperformance there. Typically, it's an overperformance. As you can see, 6 clean sheets, whilst Everton are projected to have between 7 and 8 clean sheets, really. Expected goals conceded is 54. They've actually considered 53 goals conceded, so pretty much matching the stats there. But in recent games, Everton have looked better, and the double's decent. Crystal Palace and Brentford are better teams than Everton, but if you look at recent form, it's quite neck and neck, and you could see 1 clean sheet out of those 2. Do I expect 2 clean sheets and huge hauls for Pickford? Probably not, but then I could say the same about Schmeichel, Nick Pope, and all the other goalkeepers on offer, except possibly Martinez. So for me, Pickford is the second best goalkeeper to buy for this game week specifically, but then you also compare him to Martinez. If you want to buy one into your actual team, well, Martinez faces Man City in Game Week 38, whilst Pickford faces Arsenal. So I'd actually rather have Jordan Pickford until the end of the season, and he's currently in my best free hit team, so check that video out as well. We're now onto the hold section, and we've got 4 of them, remember, so it's going to be the longest hold section in history, at least on this channel. So we've gone for Ollie Watkins, and he did pick up an injury against Liverpool. Steven Gerrard said it's a small injury, they'll see how it develops, so we're not going to find out really until the next few days. Now, if we found out that he's fit, he's definitely worth holding, and even on a free hit, or if you're looking for a transfer, Watkins is worth buying. But would I really be in the market and be desperate to get Watkins into my normal team? Probably not, although I really like him for Game Week 37. Once again, in Game Week 38, I would back Man City, despite all their injuries at the back, to keep a clean sheet there potentially. So for me, Ollie Watkins is a hold, and he's a really good player for Game Week 37, and you could always get rid of him for Nketiah, for example, in Game Week 38 if you need to make that striker transfer. You look at the stats across the season, they're superior to Danny Ings. He's got more goals, 10 goals, 2 assists. He's got 11 XG. His expected assists is over 5, 16 big chances, 4 big chances created. And all these stats give you an insight into why Aston Villa fans would generally say that he's the better striker than Danny Ings this season. Although I still think Ings is the better finisher. Having both of them would be great on the free hit potentially. But then you've also got Harry Kane, Richarlison, maybe a Leicester forward like Vardy or Iheanacho. So there's a few options to consider. But ultimately Watkins is going to be in the vast majority, if not all of our teams, if he's fit. So I would still keep him. Let's see how the injury situation develops. Hopefully it's nothing serious. And I think Watkins and Richarlison are going to be 2 of the best strikers this week. Luca Dean is a bit of a troll in FPL, especially for me, but I still think he's worth holding. If you've got him up until this point, why would you then get rid when he's got a very good double in 37? In 38 though, yes, I'd definitely get rid of him, but for Game Week 37 specifically, I think he's a great option. The stats are actually quite dismal, especially in terms of the XG and the goals. The shot volume as well is pretty average, but the creativity is okay, especially when you consider the on and off nature of Luca Dean's season. You know, he's been injured, he's had a few other issues as well. He's moved club at Everton, he didn't really have a good relationship with Rafa Benitez and a lot of other factors, but Luca Dean hasn't really been worth it in FPL this season, and I think Matty Cash is still the better option. He doesn't feature in this video because even back in Game Week 35 I talked about holding Matty Cash, and I thought he's a very good option actually to buy from that point onwards, so that's why he doesn't feature in this video. I think he's a better option than Luca Dean, but I'd still keep the Frenchman, and you could even double up with both fullbacks or maybe even with Martinez and one of them respectively. Coutinho has been awful in the last 6-7 game weeks in FPL, but he still has that capability of going huge. Now, I'll be honest, this is the player that I look at and I think he's kind of a hybrid between holding and selling. I'm not entirely sure which one he falls under. Because of the fixtures and because he has a double, I would say he's a hold. But I could see him maybe starting one game and then Buendia starting the other. So that's going to be very interesting to see. And he could still play both of them. That is still possible, but you just wouldn't count on it, to be fair. So let me know what you think about Coutinho. I think if I had him, I would hold on to him, but I wouldn't be looking to buy him into my team, if that makes any sense. Now, he could go crazy. He could be one of the biggest mistakes I make on the free hit. Hopefully he isn't. But at the moment, I'm actually not really considering Coutinho, and I'd rather go for Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins, Luca Dean, Matty Cash and Martinez. So 3 of those 5 players I mentioned to go for in the Aston Villa squad rather than Coutinho. I still think he's worth mentioning. I think you could still buy him, but ultimately he's not someone I'd be looking to get in if I didn't have him already. So for me, Coutinho's a hold. The stats are pretty decent. You know, they do match the XG, the XA with the goals and assists. The shot volume's okay as well, considering he's only played 16 games, but they're nothing special. And I think there are better midfielders out there in the double game week, such as Wilfred Zaha. The final hold of this video, and once again, a bit of a hybrid between holding and selling, is James Maddison. If he is injured and we have a few murmurings that he's not going to be in the squad or he's going to start from the bench, then I would sell James Maddison because I just don't think it's worth it. If he's not going to play against Watford, then it's not really worth it when he has a single game week pretty much against Chelsea. Now, he can go crazy as well, and I think he's been more consistent than someone like Coutinho, despite having arguably worse stats when you compare the appearances, the minutes, and all of those factors. But Maddison's injury prone is a huge shame. Otherwise, I think Maddison and Vardy would be quite locked in to my FPL team. I really like both of them when they're fully fit and they've got a run of games, but Leicester players are just a complete conundrum. They constantly get rotated. It's partly due to Brendan Rodgers. Well, I say it's mainly down to Brendan Rodgers being in the Conference League. Now they're no longer in it. The Premier League is all they have left. They're 14th in the table and they need to improve. Leicester shouldn't be in that position. I think Maddison is their best outfield player, but I'm very concerned if he's going to get the minutes or not. But if he's fully fit and he's fine, and I think he's going to start against Watford, I'd definitely hold on to him, because even in that game alone, he could go crazy, and he's done it in the past against Chelsea, so do not rule out James Maddison. We're now on to the sell section. Now, Thomas Tuchel kind of played this down in the press conference, saying that the issues between him and Alonso was sorted, but I'd still sell Marcos Alonso. He's facing Leicester and Watford, and he could go crazy in both games, and maybe it isn't, as clear-cut. He's never going to play for Chelsea again. He's going off to Barcelona in the summer. He still might play these remaining fixtures and the FA Cup final, and Chelsea don't really have too many alternatives in the left wing-back position, with Chilwell still recovering. So I still think you could arguably hold him, but with all the other options at your disposal from Liverpool, the double game week defenders, also Manchester City, I think it's worth selling him, although in game week 38 he could burn you if he starts against Watford. So take that with a pinch of salt. Let me know what you're doing with Marcos Alonso if you do have him. I definitely wouldn't look to bring him in, despite how explosive he can be, and he has shown some very good form recently. His stats across the season are actually very good. The goals and assists match with the underlying numbers there. 3 big chances, 7 big chances created, decent shot volume for a defender. There's a lot to like. He's getting bonus points and he's getting into some great positions. So for me, Marcos Alonso, it's a reluctant sell, and he might still start these remaining 2 games, and therefore you might regret selling him in the end. So let me know what you think of this one. In recent weeks, I made a few bad transfers. They include Reece James and Timo Pukki. He just hasn't done it for me. Off the back of 2 successive returns and also some pretty good form over the last 10 game weeks before I brought him in, he just hasn't done it for me. He's constantly been blanking. Norwich are now down, and they just don't seem to be well organised. They're not creating chances. They're easy to go through. West Ham could have won by even more. And Timo Pukki has decent stats. He's not a bad striker per se, but if you need one of Ollie Watkins, Danny Ings, Richarlison, maybe a Leicester forward or someone else, Pukki could be that sacrificial lamb. Another one is Nketiah. Despite the fact that he has a single game week, I think he's a much better option than Timo Pukki right now. Let's see how Pukki does in the second game of 36, but I'll be honest, I'm just not expecting anything at this point. Good underlying numbers, decent goal output for arguably the worst team in the Premier League, but for me, Pukki doesn't cut it, and he's worth selling. And finally, we're on to the skip section. I'm actually quite thankful that I got returns out of Weghorst, especially in Double Game Week 26 when he got me a huge haul against Brighton, and also in recent weeks before I sold him in Double Game Week 36, he got me a few returns there as well. But you look at the underlying numbers, and it's no surprise why he doesn't get too many FPL points. And even when Burnley went on a little run under their new manager, it's not like Weghorst was setting the world alight. So I would skip Weghorst and probably all Burnley assets, except possibly Nick Pope. But even then, there's Jordan Pickford and Martinez. So why would you then go for Pope over these 2 options? So despite the fact that Burnley don't have the worst set of doubles in the world that you're ever going to see, like maybe Wolves had in Game Week 36, I still wouldn't go for them. And Tottenham, I just don't expect anything there, even though the Clarets beat them in the reverse fixture. And also Aston Villa, I just don't see them getting a result there. They just lost to them 3-1. And also in Game Week 38, it's a decent fixture against Newcastle, but nothing great. And I ultimately would skip all Burnley assets, including Weghorst. I've mentioned him a few times in this video, but I'd still skip him, and probably Jamie Vardy as well, as I talked about in recent transfer tips videos. So Iheanacho for me is a skip. Once again, very poor underlying numbers. His expected goals figure is just under 4. His expected assists is just over 3. 6 big chances, 5 big chances created in 25 games. Yes, limited minutes as well. You have to take that into account. And he's got 4 goals and 6 assists, but it's nothing like this time last season where Iheanacho was one of the informed strikers, and I actually had him in my team, was doing very well for me. But I just don't know what's happened. I thought he would actually, kick on from that this season. He scored in the Community Shield final against Man City, but it just hasn't worked out for Leicester and also for Iheanacho. And I would skip him, even though he has potential to go very big this week, especially against Watford if he starts. I just wouldn't go anywhere near Iheanacho right now personally. He might still do very well, but for me, it's a no. And the only Leicester assets I'd really consider are Schmeichel and James Maddison. The final player featuring on this video is Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's a skip, and I said this before, him and Edouard, it's just a constant conundrum as well with Patrick Vieira. Whenever we big up one of these strikers and say, you know what, they might be one of the better budget forwards available, they're then benched. And ultimately, Mateta might start both games, but ultimately he could also just start one of them and then Edouard starts the other. And the same could be said against Man United, where Crystal Palace could get a few goals there. So for me, Mateta is a skip. You look at the underlying numbers again, very poor. An expected goals figure of just under 5. He's got 4 goals and 1 assist. They all match up, but nothing spectacular, nothing great. He's got 33 shots and 32 of them are inside the box. So he's a pure fox in the box there, as you can see, and just nothing there that really stands out. The fixtures are okay. Crystal Palace probably have the 3rd best fixtures behind Everton and Aston Villa, but I would just go for Zaha. I think that's enough, and even Gallagher I would consider over Mateta, despite the fact that Gallagher, who was recently voted Crystal Palace's Player of the Year, he just hasn't really done it in recent games, but I would rather go for him than Mateta or Edouard. And then you've got those three strikers I kept talking about, Richarlison, Ings and Watkins. I just think they're all much better and they're worth that extra money. So for me, Mateta is a skip. Let me know what you think of any of these picks. If you disagree, feel free to comment that down in the comment section below. And if there are any players on your watch list, I'd also be very intrigued to see, because there's so many players to cover. I've talked about Son before. Of course, he's a buy. He's a fantastic player for the last 2 games against Burnley and Norwich. He could go absolutely crazy in those games. And even a captaincy in Game Week 37 over the Double Gameweek options isn't out of the cards for me, and I'm actually considering it. And there's so many other options we've discussed in recent weeks, like Matty Cash. Obviously, they also are relevant this week. There we go. That's it. We've gone through 12 players. We've gone for 4 holds this time. If you disagree with anything, once again, I'd be very interested to see your thoughts. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. It's very much appreciated, all your support. Let's get this video to 150 likes, and also let's get to 11,000 subscribers. We can definitely do that, and it really helps out the channel. We're trying to reach new heights and new goals, and it's all thanks to you guys and girls. So thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, for all the latest FPL and UCL fantasy updates, and also to kind of converse with me there. The same goes for Discord. There's a link in the description below, as well as an FPL league, and also the channel memberships and Patreon. All the links are included in there, and you can get exclusive early access to all my videos if you sign up to any single tier. So check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. Take care, enjoy the football. All the best of luck for Double Gameweek 36, because that's still going on, as well as Double Gameweek 37, and I'll see you next time.